It's not showing recording on my end. Oh, happy Wednesday. Welcome to L.I.N.K Live. I didn't see the recording button in a minute. My name is Marina Mayer, Editor-in-Chief of Food Logistics and Supply and Demand Chain Executive. Yay. And I'm here with my posse. If you want to go around the room.
Hi, I'm Brielle Jekyll. I'm the Associate Editor.
And I am Mackenna Morales, and I am the Assistant Editor.
And we're very excited because we are just coming off of the heels of our third SCN Summit, which was yesterday, discussing state of the supply chain industry. And our experts knocked it out of the park. The content was just phenomenal. And so today we're going to kind of run through a recap of some things that we learned and some things that were discussed about. And the on-demand version of the entire, all 4 sessions will be online, foodlogistics.com and scexec.com later this week. While you are on our websites, foodlogistics.com, the FL100, please nominate. It's for software and technology developers, due September 18th, nominations due. And then SDCexec.com, our Green Supply Chain Award, nominations are due September 11th. Did I do that right?
Yes.
Did I get it right?
Yes.
I always confuse them. Okay. So let's talk about, so our first presentation was from Corey Chafin from Kearney, and he provided, market research reports, industry insights. I think the key takeaway for me was just the food system in shock, just overall. I mean, from where we sit as the consumer, we know that there were stockouts. We know that there was, stuff we couldn't get and sometimes stuff we still can't get. Mm-hmm. But when you look at it from inside the system, like the farmers, the agriculture, the people that are making these products, I mean, he was talking how some of them had to reformulate things and use different and swap out ingredients just to make things work. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that's so interesting. And then he also said 80% of the survey respondents were interested in sustainability during COVID, which was key because sustainability is huge in our industry. And there was this big stigma that, sustainability kind of went to the wayside, and we're seeing it opposite. More and more companies are elevating their sustainable efforts during this pandemic so that they can, be sustainable. So I know, Brielle, you sat in this session. So what's some key takeaways from your end of the side of things?
Well, I thought he had a lot of really good insight. A lot of it was expected. I mean, we all saw what was going on with the paper products and food and stuff in the beginning and in the middle of the pandemic. I thought one of the things that was really interesting was when he touched about how restaurants and like dining in general is going to change because we are now so used to like this different kind of way of eating. I mean, everyone, obviously meal kits got really popular because people weren't dining out. So they want to try new things in their kitchens at home. But also how the restaurants, because of people are nervous about safety, even as we begin to open again, people are still going to have the pandemic on their mind because it's not gone. And a lot of people will start to think about food safety or cleanliness in general. So restaurants have to really, really push their clean operations and even takeout experiences. They want like a cool experience, since there's so many meal kits and other grocery things that people are buying that provide a cool experience at home. You as a restaurant need to provide a takeout experience that's pretty cool too, like working outside of the restaurant. So I thought that was all interesting.
And that is a good point. I know that we do a lot of takeout from our local restaurants, and we've just noticed how they've elevated their efforts to make sure. I mean, some of them even write little notes from the manager, whoever the owner is. And I just, it's just they're taking those extra measures that they don't need to, but they are because of the nature of the situation. Right. And, to your point, he said that in, the collapse of the food service industry was very apparent. We all saw that. But the quick service restaurants are recovering faster because they have the drive-through component. Some of them do have a drive-through component attached to it as well. So they have the outdoor dining, but they have another option where people don't even have to get out of the car, which is kind of the whole point half the time. So I just thought it was interesting. And he is, for those registrants that were on, we had a lot of great interaction in chat. The chat was going crazy. People were just constantly commenting and providing input. And Corey, our speaker, is providing his slides to the registrants. So I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, because there was a lot of good info on the slides themselves.
Right.
A lot of good stats and.
Yeah, he had some great information. So yeah, so moving on to Sherry Hinish, she was the supply chain queen and she talked about sustainability. And Sherry, if you're watching, we all want you to drop your moisturizer routine into the comment section because it's all we could talk about was how clean her skin looked.
Yeah.
I need her light. But no, Sherry is just a beautiful person inside and out. And she, you know, her big thing was sustainability and reusability and being thrifty and kind of reassessing how we buy, what we buy, how we use it, how long we make it last. And I think that that's so key, especially in a time like today where, you know, maybe people are out of jobs or maybe they're struggling a little bit because of the situation. And, you know, you kind of have to step back and reassess things a little bit. You know, do I really need that shirt, you know, just because it's on sale? I mean, that was me pre-COVID. Yes, I do need it. It's on sale. Post-COVID, I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere, so I don't know where I'm going to wear it.
Yeah.
So
Fair.
yeah. But, you know, she did a survey and I guess out of 8,000 suppliers, 72% of them reported climate change as a risk to their business during COVID. And, you know, I think that that's it just is very telling of the nature of our situation because, you know, like all of our speakers talked about, you know, we're in a pandemic. But then there's things like Mother Nature that happen. There's things that, you know, the internet goes out. This morning, my internet crashed because, you know, we have 2 e-learners and plus my husband and I, and it's just, you know, things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that was just very telling of where we are with the nature of the situation. And then she also stressed, you know, smart buildings and renewable sources as being the future. And, you know, people, planet, and profit. And I know we were all talking about how, she was kind of like very moving, very, you know, like motivational there for a while because she was trying to tell our junior execs to kind of stand up for themselves. And I know that was something you guys both resonated with. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rawr. You have to watch the on-demand version to see her rawr.
Yeah,
it was great. What other key takeaways did you have? I know McKenna, you sat in on it too, so the floor is open.
I didn't have to sit in on it. I just want to stress that. I just wanted to. And she said that it's up to us. And mm-hmm. I messaged you guys out to the side and I was like, I screamed when she said that because that motto can be used for anything that's going on in the world today. I live in Wisconsin, so it's a very hard and hectic time here currently. And it's up to us to just make the world a better place. And I think that if we continue to have that motto, that it'll change how consumers shop, and it'll change how the supply chain works, and it'll make the world a little bit more sufficient and more eco-friendly as well. And I don't know, I really liked that phrase.
Yeah.
It hit a little bit too close to home.
It hit home.
You know, sustainability is my jam, so I was really interested. Yeah, I was excited.
I need to get a nameplate for your desk that says sustainability is my jam because I just love that. Okay, continue.
Which reminds me, I have to clean up my compost pile today. But yeah, I like the stuff she said. I definitely learned a lot of new things. And one of the things that she pointed out is, which kind of makes me angry. And I just feel like I'm glad to know that a lot of logistics and supply chain companies are realizing the risks that climate change can bring to their business, you know, because it affects weather, and weather is a huge factor in logistics. And, you know, as the weather gets worse, the harder it will be to deliver products. So on top of just being a human being that cares, it's good to know that they know there are real consequences to this. So I'm glad that she shared those results. She also shared a bunch of databases that you can use, because as a consumer, it's hard because you feel like you can do all this work, but companies themselves are such big drivers of climate change because they're mass producing. They are the ones that are really impacting it. So yes, my part as a consumer does this one part, and then if we all band together and keep doing it, it will help, and then it will also help the companies divert to what the consumers want, especially nowadays where consumers are really in control. So she talked about a couple resources that you can use to find the companies that align with your values, and that are being sustainable, which she considers she mentioned the 3 Ps: people, oh my God, planet,
and
people,
profit.
and profit. That's
Yeah.
it. So yeah, so I really liked all of it. It made me, yeah, it definitely inspired me to get after it online, to keep looking at, who are these companies that are involved in this. And then another thing was, she mentioned that some people do not walk the walk. It is their brand messaging, and the things that they present themselves as don't always add up to what their actual operations are doing. So as a consumer, it's really important that you do the research, which is sad to say, because that's a lot of steps it takes for you just to get your groceries,
Right. And
So,
companies should be more transparent about that too. And it shouldn't be, this is something that I hate a lot, and it goes to like with a lot of social justice issues as well. When people are genuinely wanting to know the information, and people come back and say, well, just look it up, do the research. That's what I did. But I'm like, that's not accessible. You need to be transparent. And when you're transparent, you have accessibility too. And I have said this on several like lives before, that when you are accessible and when the corporate values line up with your own values, you're going to be a loyal customer. And if companies don't step up and become more transparent and talk about what they're doing to save the environment, that they can risk cancellation, because you're going to lose customers if you're not going to save our planet.
Right. Yeah, transparency is huge, especially in a time like today, which we'll get to when we talk about our last discussion about last mile. But we talked about, shipping, and how some companies are just like, yeah, we'll ship it out, but they're not transparent about it. Like, if it's going to take 2 weeks, you say it's going to take 2 weeks, and it's going to take 2 weeks because of COVID. And I think normally people understand that. So, I just think it's just a trying time, and we just all need to be better people to each other and to ourselves and to our planet, and just set a better example for the future leaders of the supply chain.
I have another thing to say.
Yes.
But at the end of Sherry's session, one of the viewers mentioned how she has a lot of retail experience, and how does fast fashion play into climate change. And it's no lie that fashion is like the biggest proponent of it. And she talked about how sustainable lines are often more expensive and just not achievable to the average middle class person. And that is very true. When you want sustainable clothing, there is a huge class factor in this. I don't want a plain white t-shirt for $150 and I can get it at Target for like $3. So that's a big issue that we as consumers and as society and companies need to confront. Should being sustainable be that costly?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think, and it's kind of like that with even some food, all organic. I mean, to have an all organic, gluten-free diet, I mean, it costs more. And, I equate that with the fashion world too, because it costs more to have, nicer things. But in this sense, being sustainable isn't necessarily a nicer luxury. It's something that, you're doing to better protect the planet. So, it's a very good point, because, if you want everybody to participate, you got to make it more financially feasible for everybody to participate.
And a lot of sustainable fashion brands aren't even size inclusive. So if you're bigger than like a size 8 for women, that you won't even be able to buy from that brand at all.
Right.
And so that's another issue that they have to work on. And with the organic and fresh produce, that's way more expensive than processed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a lot better though as more consumers are interested in it. And then there's like other options for you. Like I do rental clothes. And there's a lot of really cool rental companies. You can also, thrifting is like we were saying yesterday, is a huge deal, because I think some of the problem is the constant manufacturing of new clothes. It's contributing to greenhouse gases. It's using up materials that are not lasting in the earth. So there are other options, and it's definitely getting better as we go along. But it takes all of us as consumers to be interested in it, because that's how companies are moving towards that. And another thing is that the supply chain has stretched so long, far, globally, because it was just cheaper that way, and companies are looking for the cheaper and cheaper and cheaper options. And that's kind of why it's so much more costly to do, sustainable stuff, because it takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more energy. It takes a lot more, just altogether, rare occurrences, rather than just like looking for the cheapest labor, cheapest sourcing, so a lot goes into it. But as we shrink the supply chain more, and and consumers get more interested in it, it will get better over time.
I wonder how long that time will take.
I know.
Because there's some stores that inventory that doesn't sell, they burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and that just like breaks my heart, because it's just, there's not just in our country, but there's many other countries that would love those clothes.
Right.
Well, I know we talked about it on the sustainable episode. I mentioned that it's a lot of the luxury brands and the high fashion designers, because they don't want their clothing falling into lower price points in the gray market, but their customer base is very interested in sustainable and, socially acceptable ways of doing things. So a lot of the luxury corporations have pledged not to do that anymore. So I think hopefully it will trickle down from there.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And it's especially when you're dealing with like kids' clothes, they outgrow them so fast. So there's clothes that they've worn like twice. They're in good condition. I've always sold them to other people or donated them. It beats sitting in a bag in my basement. It's, I'd rather it go to a good home and somebody actually use it. But to burn it just breaks my heart. It's like,
just thrift your clothes.
Or send your stuff. We've sent ours to Red Cross before. For those that have, dealt with fires or hurricanes and they've lost everything. But yeah, I agree. Thrifting is nifty.
Right?
Is that how they say it?
Thrift. I grew up thrifting.
Brielle looked at me like when my 8-year-old looks at me and I say something and she's like,
well,
like, don't talk to me, Mom.
Fashion repeats itself too, and we have to remember that. So you can find those articles of clothing that are on sale right now at your favorite clothing stores in a thrift store, and you can customize it to make it your own.
Yeah.
Do that.
There's certain 80s clothes that should not repeat themselves, but or hair. So anyways, I thought it was a good discussion. So if you want to see Sherry in action, go to our on-demand later this week and register to watch the sessions. Then we had John Gold from the National Retail Federation. And what I liked about it was a fireside chat. And what I liked about our conversation is he was very honest. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what it's going to look like in 3, 4, 5 months. And one of the discussion points we had was, what do the holidays look like? And he's like, it could be either way. Online obviously is the way to go these days. Brick and mortar is kind of struggling. Brick and mortar is struggling in more ways than one. We have a lot of civil unrest in certain parts of the country that are, forcing businesses to shut back down after they were opening up. But he was very, I just, enjoyed that part. The other thing he said, I know we tweeted about it, or it was on one of our social media platforms, but he basically said that the technology, I'm looking for my notes, but I know that you guys talked about it on social, but it was basically like 5 to 7 years of technology was introduced within like the last 3 to 4 months.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I just, when you sit back and think about that, you know, we were all at Modex seeing technology, you know, in its infancy stages, not really knowing what we were going home to. And then all of a sudden, like the whole world just turned upside down. And, you know, it's just so crazy to think that that's how quickly this technology just was implemented. So I thought that was very eye-opening. So what other key
Also,
takeaways?
he talked about signage a lot, and there's a new article on SCN Accept right now that talks about the importance of tape. And I know that sounds real lame, but it was very, very interesting in how tape is going to be a major player when it comes
Yes,
to
I
social
thought it was
distancing.
it was an expert column. You're right. It's on
Yeah.
scexec.com. And it was super interesting, like tape markings and how,
Yeah.
I mean, now whenever you go in a store, you look down and you see tape. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
And
It's so helpful.
I judge people
Yeah.
who go above the tape line, and I'm like, back off.
Oh
I
man.
didn't like people getting close to me to begin with. So
When I
No.
first went to the grocery store for the first time after all this stuff was implemented, and I had been just doing online groceries, so I didn't know. And I'm
Right.
walking the wrong way, and I was like, realized what I was doing, and I was like,
There's arrows.
sorry. I
Like,
said that to
lady.
a bunch of people that walked by. I was like, sorry.
oh my God, I love it.
But so he talked about the signage and how COVID is just an evolving situation for retailers, and he stressed that retailers are doing their best. And I think
Yeah.
they really are, and we need to
Yeah.
be more empathetic about it as consumers, because
Yeah.
if I see another person yell at a teenager at a grocery store, I might
I know.
cry on
I know.
them.
And you know, they're all navigating it alongside us. You know, nobody, I mean, and that's what he was saying. He said some of their members were prepared, but when you say the word prepared, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
Like,
you know, did they have all of these social distancing guidelines in place? No, that was not a thing. So, you know, to prepare for a pandemic, you're thinking, oh, I got to make sure all my important data is backed up. You don't think that, hey, you're going to have to shut down for 3 months and you literally have to reconfigure how you get clothing items to people. And then all of a sudden you have to be a brick and mortar to a curbside pickup for a month just to kind of
right.
save face, you know. He was saying how port containers are down 9.4% from 2019, but that number could go up as we get closer to the holidays. And he did say that even though the projections are not necessarily out for the holidays, he did feel pretty good that we were going to have some kind of a recovery mode.
Something
Which I thought was interesting.
Something that I hope for the future is that they continue to keep the plexiglass in front of cashiers, because I was a cashier all throughout college. That was probably one of the grossest jobs out there. And
You want somebody like handing over stuff? You
No.
didn't swipe that correctly.
yeah, like
Here's my coupon.
swipe your card, because just like if you really think about how gross money is, it
Yeah.
keep the plexiglass. That was a great innovation.
Well, we also talked about contactless payment and how like that's something that he envisioned would be sticking around. Like one of those innovations that's in place now that could be in place, you know, post-pandemic. So, which I hope so.
Do you use Apple Pay at all?
No.
Like with your phone or your watch?
No.
Are you talking to me? Because she does not have an iPhone.
I'm not an iPhone person.
I thought you had an iPhone. Well, I don't know. I
Oh,
don't
remember
You're lucky I figured out this link to log on.
I was actually going to ask this. So, because that's funny you said that, because I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts the other day and we were on a road trip and I just so happened to have my wallet like packed away in my suitcase. So I was like, crap. So I'm like, wait, I have my phone. It's Dunkin'. Well, it wouldn't work because it needed my Face ID and there was plexiglass, so they couldn't. So it was a disaster.
Oh my God.
Thank God my friend had her wallet and I just used her card because it was really a disaster. It was so embarrassing and awkward.
But I mean, who would have thought of that? Who would have thought that would have been an issue, you know?
Well, contactless payment help with the coin shortage, or will it make it worse? Does someone have an update on the coin shortage?
I've been meaning to do a podcast or write an article on this because I'm interested too. And I kind of want to know how it's affecting retail and the supply chain.
Right.
But I was really excited that I was able to give exact change the other day. Look at me helping society.
Reversing the economy here.
Yeah. If there is an expert watching this who knows about the coin shortage, tell us. Explain to me.
Comment and let us know, and maybe we can do a link live with it about the coin shortage. But definitely hit up Brielle for that podcast, because I think that would be super interesting.
And then Brielle, tell me so I can listen in.
I will. I just got word that New Jersey gyms are opening.
Oh,
I don't know how I feel about it.
Wisconsin gyms are already open. So.
Yeah, Illinois' gyms have been open-ish, but now they passed this new law where even if you're sitting outside at a restaurant, well, you can go in and dine in now. That just started. I have not personally done that, but whenever you're talking to the server or the waitress and you're ordering, even if you're sitting outside, you have to wear a mask. So the only time you can take it off is when you're eating.
Oh,
what if they ask if you want to refill? Can you just nod?
You have to wear, I guess. I have not experienced it.
You know that moment when you're like shoving your face full of food, and that's when the waitress comes over and it's like, how is everything? And you're like, it's so much worse now.
Like you wanna rest it on your nose so you can eat, and then you're like, yeah. Yeah. No, we have not. We went out to dinner last weekend and it was not in effect. You had to wear the mask walking in. Even if you were sitting outside, you still had to approach it wearing it. And then if you had to go inside to use the bathroom, you had to wear it. But this is a new thing.
Yeah.
And my husband and I are actually doing our first dinner, just the two of us, since like February. I had to sit and look at a calendar and was like, oh my gosh. So we'll be experiencing how this works. But yeah, I'll report back. But it was one of those where you're like, oh. I guess it kind of makes sense because you're still, within close proximity when you're ordering. And if they can't hear you or whatever the case is, they're leaning in. So I don't know.
Oh, I forgot to tell you guys yesterday. Yeah. Sorry, I just remembered this.
No, you're fine.
That happened. So we were grocery shopping yesterday, and all of a sudden I was like, are we too late? But it was 6:00. So I was like, they can't be closing, because they were putting up plastic sheets over everything that was refrigerated, and actually over everything. And so I was like, can I still buy this chicken? And they're like, have whatever you want. And I was like, well, then why are you taping it up? And then I could hear them talking. It's a new ordinance that you just have to cover it with like plastic, so it's not like open air all the time. I was shocked.
So that's really funny you said that, because there was a picture circulating on Facebook from one of the grocery stores in Illinois by us of that. And they were like, oh, what is going on? Did the fridge break? Something like that, and all the Karens get on and they're like, oh, the plastic, I'm not buying food with plastic on it, So, but that is interesting, because I feel like New Jersey and Illinois have been very similar when ordinances get enacted, because
Mackenna's
Wisconsin's kind of been on its own island, but I feel like when we talk, we're always like, oh yeah, that's how it is here too. So that's really interesting. I didn't know that was why. I just saw the picture of it and thought.
I only found out because I could hear the workers talking, and it was like they must have just gotten the notice then, like while we were there, because it was.
I wonder like a chirp, or is it?
Yeah, it's like it's not completely translucent. It's like in between, and it's like this plastic clearish tarp that goes over everything.
Yeah.
And
I can picture it perfectly.
Yeah.
I should find the picture from one of the Facebook pages in my area and send it to you. That is interesting. And that would be a good topic for us to explore more. Like, why would that be necessary if it's already in packaging already?
I guess because you're touching it.
Interesting. We will have to look into that more. It's very interesting. Yes. Interesting stuff. Okay, our final discussion was with Steve Sensing from Ryder. And this one was interesting because he dialed in from the Gulf, and we were really nervous leading up to this presentation that he wouldn't even be able to join us because he had a lot of internet issues, and he actually went to a hotel to do the discussion because
Oh, wow.
that's how much they cared about being a part of the SCN Summit. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. And we made it through before power went out and everything. So it was great. But a lot of our discussion was about last mile delivery, order fulfillment, onshoring, nearshoring, how companies are, they're reconfiguring their truckload carrier capacity, bringing larger shipments to people, loading up the truck more, especially because a lot of these companies are shipping to different places. When schools shut down, they weren't receiving food. So they had to reallocate where that food was going. And then obviously the uptick in, at-home gym equipment, furniture, he said do it yourself, that category like skyrocketed. And then obviously work from home and learn from home, desks, computers, stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty big. The one thing that I really, really thought was interesting was that he said about 95% of warehouses don't really need automation.
I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah. And I was like, really? And he goes, now we could automate it, but like they don't really need it. And he stressed the word need because that means that these warehouses are built and functioned in a way that they can function on their own without the automation in there. And I just thought that was kind of interesting because everybody's kind of pushing for, you need more automation, you need more robotics, you need this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know what that encompassed, if he meant just like the customers that he works with or what that encompassed, but I was kind of like blown away by that.
My dad, hey dad, works at in a warehouse and it's all manual. They don't have any automation whatsoever.
Yeah, there's a lot of warehouses that are still old school, no automation. But I think it just proves that, I think it goes along with the idea that the automation works best where it can help augment your operation instead of replacing a job, and like just take over the parts of the job that is super difficult and super painful for workers to do. So I think that's where if most of your operation is running smoothly and your guys are not getting hurt and it's not tiring them out, that would probably be not a waste, but unnecessary.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because it's a lot of infrastructure. It's a lot of financial input. And, I just thought it was interesting. He also talked about pop-up fleets, which I thought was funny too, because, these fleets they just drive to a parking lot and people can just come up and buy whatever, buy it from their truck. And he said that was what was happening during the pandemic when people were stockpiling. And it reminds me of when we got back from Modex that next day. My daddy's a store manager at a Target by us, and he calls me and he's like, you got to get here and stock up on your toilet paper and your paper towels. And I was like, what are you talking about? Who does that? And he's like, you need to get here. And I was like, okay. So I went there, and he already has my cart ready, and he's got 24 things of toilet paper and paper towels and all this. And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna need this, but whatever,
What do you
But then, huh?
What do you for packages? Or just
No, like the 24 count. They have a 24 count, 48 count.
Ooh, I thought you were one of those people, Marina.
Yeah, I was really stockpiling, Oh my God, that's hilarious. So, but then, we talked about the pop-up fleets, and it reminded me of that image when, they would just bring out the pallets of bottled water.
Oh yeah.
They weren't even putting them on the shelf. He was laughing. He's like, I can't even put it on the shelf. People are just pulling it off the pallets. So there's like a whole aisle of just all these pallets, and people are just pulling stuff off the pallets.
It's like Black Friday, but for necessity.
Yes. It's like, I gotta get all my bottled water, I never understood that one, but whatever. But yeah, the pop-up fleet I thought was interesting. And I think that could be interesting, and even can cross over in the food area, depending on the situation, depending on, if it's a school where, they need meals or whatever the case is. I don't know. That was my key takeaway from it, along with the automation of the warehousing. So I don't know if you have any else to add.
I don't think so.
No, it's 12:37 or 11:37. Sorry.
We need to sign up. I don't know. It was a great session. So for all those who registered, On Demand is online next week or end of this week. And then for those who have not registered, please make sure you register foodlogistics.com and sdcexec.com and see the on-demand next week or end of this week. Sorry, my son is tapping me because it's 11:38 and it's lunchtime. So
Thank you.
kindergarten's done for the day. So please check back next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. We'll be talking about L.I.N.K Educate. Yes, I see you. Yes, I see you. Yes, you can have one. Yes, leave me alone. Eat whatever you want, just leave me alone. Oh my God.
E-learning is going really well.
I know, I love e-learning. Oh my God, yay. Next week is L.I.N.K Educate. We'll be doing a recap of all of our L.I.N.K Educate podcasts that Mackenna and Brielle, I just combined your names, did. And it was some great information with some professors and students all about supply chain, which is, very timely with our back to school. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, ladies, for all your help. And we'll see everybody next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.